Can I ask you something? Have you ever known exactly what you wanted to say in English, and by the time it came out of your mouth, it was already wrong? Or worse, it just didn't come out at all?
Claire, you just described my entire first year of learning Portuguese. I would build the whole sentence perfectly, in my head, in English, and then try to say it out loud in Portuguese, and it just fell apart halfway through.
And the frustrating part is that you knew the words.
I knew every single word. I could have written that sentence down on paper with no mistakes at all. But the second somebody was looking at me, waiting for me to speak, there was this gap, this little half-second gap, and I lost the sentence inside it.
And I bet you can name the exact situation where it happens to you. Most people can. It's oddly specific for everybody. A particular room, a particular kind of person.
Mine is phone calls. To this day, face-to-face I'm fine, and on the phone, something in me tightens up.
Mine is when somebody switches topics suddenly. If the conversation has been about one thing for 10 minutes and then jumps, I lose about 3 seconds every time.
And notice neither of those is a vocabulary problem. We both have the words. There's a moment of pressure, and the words stop being reachable.
Reachable is the right word for it. They're not gone. They're just behind something. That gap is what today is about, because that moment isn't about your grammar. It's not about your vocabulary either. You've probably studied both for years. It's about translation. Specifically, the half second where your brain stops to translate before you speak. That half second is where almost everybody freezes.
So today we're doing something a little different. We're not going to hand you a list of random vocabulary that you'll forget by Thursday. We're going to walk through 3 exact real-life moments where this happens to you. Small talk, being put on the spot, and explaining something more complex. And for each one, we'll give you the exact phrases that let you skip the translation step completely.
9 phrases in total. By the end of this episode, you'll have all 9 ready to use today, the next time you open your mouth to speak English.
And we're going to say every single one of them out loud together, more than once. So if you're somewhere you can speak, do it. Out loud, not in your head.
In your head is where the problem lives.
That's the whole episode in one sentence, honestly. This is the Fluency Plateau.
Your daily step past the plateau.
Quick question before we start, Claire. Why do you think this happens? Why do we translate first, even after years of studying?
Because of how most of us learned. We learned English as a system of rules to apply, not as a language to think in. Picture a typical lesson. You get a rule. You get 10 sentences to practice the rule. You check your answers. Everything you did was correct on paper, and none of it happened in real time.
Nobody was standing in front of you, waiting.
Nobody was waiting. So your brain learned English as a translation exercise, and now it does the safe thing. It builds the sentence in your first language, where it knows the sentence is correct, and then it tries to convert it. The problem is that a conversation doesn't wait for you to convert anything.
And it's not a small delay. I think that's the part people underestimate.
It really isn't small, because you're not translating one word. You're translating the word order, the tone, the level of politeness, and usually some expression from your language that doesn't exist in English at all. That's 4 separate decisions, and you're making all 4 of them while somebody is looking at you.
I'll be honest with you, I still catch myself doing this. Last month I was at a coffee shop, and the barista asked me a completely normal question. He said, "Are you following the game tonight?" And I froze for about 3 full seconds because I went straight to the most literal meaning of following, and for a moment, it made no sense to me at all.
3 seconds doesn't sound like much, but in a real conversation, 3 seconds is an eternity.
It's forever. And here's the part that actually stung. He moved on. He said, "No worries," and went back to the machine. I lost the conversation, not because I didn't know the words, because I was busy translating.
And that's what we want you to hear early, before we start. You're not slow, you're not bad at English. You are doing extra work that fluent speakers simply aren't doing. Take the extra work away, and the speed shows up on its own.
Can I add one thing to that? Because I think most people diagnose this problem wrong, and the wrong diagnosis costs them years.
Please.
When you freeze, the first thing your brain tells you is, "I need more vocabulary." So you go and study another 200 words, and the next time you freeze with a bigger vocabulary.
Which is a very expensive way to have the same problem.
It's the most common trap in language learning, because studying more words feels like progress. You can measure it, you can see the list getting longer, and the actual problem isn't on that list at all.
So let's name the wrong diagnoses one by one, because I think everybody listening has believed at least one of them. The first one is what you said, "I need more vocabulary."
The second is, "I need to fix my grammar."
Which is usually false, and here's how you can tell. If somebody wrote your sentence down and gave you 10 seconds, you would fix it yourself. You know the grammar. You just can't reach it in half a second.
Third one, "I need to lose my accent."
Completely unrelated, your accent has never once been the reason you froze. Nobody freezes because of how a word sounds coming out. You freeze because the word hasn't been chosen yet.
And the fourth, which is the saddest one, I'm just not talented at languages.
That one I want to answer carefully, because people say it about themselves with real conviction. You learned an entire language as a child with no method, no textbook, and no talent required. You are extremely good at languages. What you're not good at is doing 2 languages simultaneously under time pressure, which is a completely different skill, and honestly, a much harder one.
Nobody is good at that. Professional interpreters train for years specifically to do that, and they get tired doing it.
And that's the accidental thing that happens to you in a conversation. You are trying to interpret, live in both directions, while also being a person having a chat. Of course it breaks.
So we're going to stop asking you to interpret. So how do we take it away? Because the advice everybody gives is, stop translating, just think in English. And I have to say, that advice never helped me once.
It never helped anyone, because it's not an instruction. It's a description of the finish line. Telling someone to stop translating is like telling someone who's nervous to relax.
Which has never worked in the history of the world.
Not once. You can't stop translating by deciding to stop. Your brain will translate as long as translating is the only route it has. What you can do is give it a second route, one that's faster, so it takes that one instead.
And that route is?
Chunks. Whole pieces of English that you don't build, and you don't translate. You just reach for them, complete, the same way every time. Like reaching for a tool that's already assembled, instead of building the tool while somebody waits.
And the reason this works is that a chunk has no moving parts. There's no word order to get wrong, no tense to choose, no article to worry about. It's one unit. Your brain retrieves it the way it retrieves your own phone number.
Exactly. You don't calculate your phone number. You don't check it. It just comes out.
3 moments. 9 tools. Let's go.
Moment number 1, small talk. Somebody asks, how's it going? Or how was your weekend? And in your head, you immediately start building a real, honest, detailed answer. And that is the trap.
Right, because in a lot of languages, that question is a genuine invitation to talk. In English small talk, it usually isn't. It's closer to a greeting than to a real question.
Which means the honest, detailed answer you were building in your first language was never needed. You did all that work for nothing, and the silence while you did it is what people noticed.
So what do we reach for instead?
3 ready-made chunks. Phrases you don't build, you just use, the exact same way, every single time. Number 1, I can't complain.
I love that one, and I want to explain why it works, because it's not obvious. It's short, so there's no structure to get wrong. It's neutral, so it fits a good week and an average week. And it has a little warmth to it. You say it with a small smile, and it means something like, things are fine, nothing dramatic to report.
Let's put it in a real situation. You walk into the office on a Monday. Someone from another team passes you in the hallway and says, "Morning, how's it going?"
And you say, I can't complain. How about you?
That's the whole exchange. 2 seconds, nothing translated.
Let's say it together. I can't complain.
I can't complain. One more time, a little more relaxed. Like you actually mean it. I can't complain.
Now a variation, because you'll hear this one everywhere too. Can't complain. Just drop the I. Same meaning, slightly more casual, very common.
And when would you not use it?
If something genuinely bad happened and the person knows about it. If your colleague knows you were in the hospital last week, I can't complain, sounds strange. Then you'd want something honest instead.
Good. So it's a default, not a rule. That's an important distinction, and it comes up with every phrase we teach you.
And I want to answer a question I know some of you are asking right now, because I asked it myself for a long time. What if the person actually does want to talk? What if I use the short answer and I close a door that was open?
That's a real worry, and it deserves a real answer. So here it is. The short answer doesn't close anything. Watch what happens after it. You say, I can't complain, and then you ask them the same question back. Now they're talking, and you have 5 or 10 seconds of them speaking while you build whatever you actually want to say.
The chunk buys you the conversation. It doesn't end it.
It buys you the conversation. That's exactly right. The elaborate answer you were building in your head was going to arrive too late to start anything. The short one arrives on time and hands the floor to them.
And there's something else happening that people don't notice. When you answer instantly, you sound comfortable. And when you sound comfortable, the other person relaxes, and they talk more, and the whole exchange gets easier.
Whereas the pause reads as discomfort, even when it's just processing. That's unfair, but it's how conversations work.
One more practical note on this one, how's it going, and how was your weekend, are not the same question, and people mix them up.
Say more.
How's it going is pure greeting. Almost nobody wants detail. But how was your weekend? Is a real question about a real thing. There's usually some genuine curiosity in it, especially on a Monday.
So for that one you want the chunk, plus one small fact. I can't complain. We finally went to the beach. 6 words of content, and now there's something to talk about.
The chunk carries the greeting, and the small fact carries the conversation. You still never translated anything.
Number 2. For a week that's been heavy, it's been a long day.
This one's interesting, because it's not a complaint, exactly. It's an admission. You're telling the person you're tired without asking them to fix anything.
And it works in almost any context. End of a shift, late afternoon, a long flight. Somebody asks how you're doing and you say, honestly, it's been a long day.
And 9 times out of 10, the other person says, tell me about it. And now you're in a real conversation, one you started without translating a single word.
Say it with us. It's been a long day. It's been a long day.
And the longer version, when it's been more than one day, it's been a long week.
It's been a long week. Same shape, one word changed. That's what a chunk gives you. You learn one, you get 3.
And that's worth sitting on for a second, because it's the economics of this whole approach. You're not memorizing 9 sentences, you're memorizing 9 shapes, and each shape has 3 or 4 versions you get for free.
Which is why 9 is enough. People assume they need hundreds of phrases to hold a conversation. You need very few, used automatically, plus the ability to put a small piece of real content next to them.
I want to give you one more setting for this one, because it's not just for work. Imagine you're at a family dinner with people you don't know well. Somebody's uncle turns to you and asks how you've been.
Honestly, it's been a long week. And then you can add, but it's good to be here. 2 chunks back to back. Warm, complete, no construction.
And notice you didn't have to explain the week, you were allowed to just name it.
That permission is a real thing, and I think it's what people struggle with most. In your own language, you'd never explain your whole week to your friend's uncle. You'd say something small and warm and move on. English isn't asking more of you than your first language does.
You're just assuming it is, because everything feels heavier when you're translating. And number 3, my favorite, for when genuinely nothing has happened, same old, same old.
Explain that one, because it looks strange written down.
It does. And you can't take it apart. If you try to translate it word by word, it falls apart in your hands. It means, nothing has changed, my life is the same as last time you asked, and that's fine. It's slightly humorous, and it's very warm.
Real situation. You see a neighbor you haven't seen in 2 weeks. He says, hey, anything new?
Same old, and you both laugh a little, and that's it.
One more time, everyone. Same old, same old. Same old, same old.
And a shorter cousin of it, which you'll hear constantly, same as always.
Same as always. There's one thing about this phrase I want to flag, because it's the kind of detail that separates sounding fluent from sounding correct.
Which is?
It carries a small shrug in it. It's not a neutral report. When you say same old, you're saying, nothing's changed, and I'm at peace with that, and we can both laugh about it.
So it needs the right face.
It needs the right face and the right tone, said flatly. It sounds a little tired, said with a half smile. It sounds warm. Same 6 syllables, completely different message.
And that's true of a lot of English small talk. The words are doing about half the work. Tone is doing the rest.
Which is actually good news for you, because tone is something you already have. You've been doing tone your entire life in your first language. You don't have to learn it, you just have to let it come through instead of concentrating so hard on the words that your voice goes flat.
That flatness is a translation symptom too, by the way. When people are building a sentence in their head, their voice goes completely neutral, because all their attention is inside.
And then they sound cold, and they don't mean to, and they have no idea it's happening.
So there's a second benefit to chunks that nobody talks about. When the words are automatic, your face and your voice are free to do what they normally do.
You get to sound like yourself. That might be the most valuable thing in this episode. Before we pause, let's hear all 3 inside a real conversation, so you know how they sound next to each other. Ethan, you're a colleague I haven't seen in a while. Go.
Claire, hey, how's it going?
I can't complain. How about you?
Can't complain. Long week though.
Tell me about it. It's been a long week here too.
Anything new on your side?
Same old, same old. You?
Same as always. All right, I'll let you go. Good seeing you.
Good seeing you.
And that's a complete, natural English conversation. Count what happened in it. Nothing was built. Nothing was translated. Every single piece was pulled off a shelf.
And it took 20 seconds. That exchange in your first language would have taken the same 20 seconds. That's the point. You just performed at native speed, because you weren't doing any extra work. Now, pause the video for a second. Think of the last time somebody asked how you were doing. Which of these 3 would have fit? Answer out loud, right now, using the actual phrase.
Good. Notice what just happened. You didn't translate anything. You reached directly for an English phrase and used it as a whole unit. That's the skill. That is literally the entire skill of this episode.
And I want to add something, because I think people feel guilty about this. Using a ready-made phrase is not cheating, and it's not lazy. Native speakers do this all day long. Almost nothing in a normal small talk exchange is built from scratch.
Nobody is composing original poetry in the hallway on a Monday morning.
Nobody. So stop trying to. And I say that as somebody who tried to, for about 2 years.
Tell them.
When I was living abroad, I had a neighbor who said good morning to me every single day. Same woman, same hallway, same time. And every single day I built a full answer in my head. First, I wanted to mention the weather, ask about her dog, sound like a person she'd want to talk to.
And how did that go?
I'd get about 4 words out and she'd already be gone. Every day, for months. And one morning I was too tired to build anything, so I just said the shortest thing I knew, and she stopped, and she laughed, and we talked for 10 minutes.
Because you finally sounded like somebody she could have a conversation with.
Because I finally answered at the speed a hallway conversation moves at. The elaborate version was never better. It was just slower, and slower is what killed it. By the way, if this is the kind of practice that actually helps you, hit subscribe. We publish new episodes like this multiple times a week, and every single one gives you phrases you can use the same day.
And if you're practicing out loud with us right now, you're already doing more than most people ever do. Keep going.
Before we move on, one quick thing about how to practice these 3, because how you practice decides whether they show up when you need them.
This matters more than people think.
Don't practice them at your desk with a notebook. Practice them in the moment you'd actually use them. Walking into a room, answering the phone, the first 10 seconds of a video call.
Because a phrase you rehearsed sitting down is a phrase your brain files under study, and study doesn't get retrieved in a hallway.
Say them while you're doing something else. Say them badly. Say them to nobody. The goal is to make them boring, and boring is what automatic feels like from the inside.
All right, moment number 2. This one's harder. Moment number 2. Somebody asks you something you didn't expect. What do you think about that? What would you do? And suddenly you need an opinion, in English, right now, and your brain runs straight to your first language to build the smart-sounding answer first.
This is the one that gets me the most, honestly. Because the pressure isn't the grammar, it's the speed. You feel like you have to answer immediately, so your brain panics and grabs your first language as a shortcut, and the shortcut is what makes you slower.
So here's the fix, and it's a little counterintuitive. You need phrases that buy you time in English, not silence, not actual English words that give your brain a second to catch up while you are already speaking.
That's the key part. You're already speaking. The conversation didn't stop. Nobody is waiting in silence, so nobody feels the gap, including you.
And I want to talk about the silence itself for a minute, because I think it's the real enemy in this moment. Not the grammar, the silence.
Go ahead, because this is the emotional part of the episode, and people need to hear it.
When there's silence after a question, your brain fills it with a story, and the story is always the same story. They think I don't understand. They think I'm not smart. They're regretting asking me.
And none of that is happening.
None of it is happening. They're thinking about lunch, but you can't know that from inside the silence. So the panic builds, and the panic is what actually stops the sentence, not the missing word.
And here's what makes it worse. Once you're panicking, you stop being able to reach the English you have. It's not that your English got worse. It's that stress narrows what you can retrieve. So the panic causes the freeze, and then the freeze causes more panic.
It's a loop, and you can't think your way out of a loop.
You can only interrupt it with something automatic, which is what these 3 phrases are for. They're not clever. They're not impressive. They're a circuit breaker.
And once the sentence has started, the loop can't form. That's the entire mechanism.
I'll tell you when this clicked for me. I was in a work meeting, and I was asked something in front of about 12 people, and I did the thing where I said nothing for 4 seconds. And afterwards, a colleague told me she thought I was being thoughtful.
She thought you were being thoughtful.
She thought I was considering the question carefully, and I had been having a small crisis. The gap between what I experienced and what the room experienced was enormous, and it taught me that nobody is watching you as closely as you think.
But you'd still rather not spend those 4 seconds in a crisis.
I'd rather not, which is why we fill them with words. First one. Honestly, I've never really thought about it, but...
And you leave it hanging. That's the point. The sentence isn't finished, so the other person waits, and you have another 2 or 3 seconds to find your actual answer.
Real situation. You're in a meeting and somebody says, "You've been quiet, what do you think?" And every eye turns to you.
And you say, "Honestly, I've never really thought about it, but I'd probably start with the customer side."
And that answer sounds thoughtful, not hesitant, thoughtful. There's a real difference between the two, and this phrase puts you on the right side of it.
Repeat it with us. Honestly, I've never really thought about it, but...
Honestly, I've never really thought about it, but... And a shorter version, for when you have thought about it and just need a second. I've never thought about it that way, but... I've never thought about it that way, but...
Quick bonus note here, and this is a little preview of something we'll do a whole episode on. In real, natural speech, people almost never pronounce honestly as clearly as we just did. It usually comes out softer and faster, with the H almost gone. That's called a reduced form, and it's an entire system. It's why fast English sounds like a completely different language sometimes.
It's our secret weapon on this channel, so keep an eye out for those episodes.
Second phrase, if you want to sound a little more deliberate, that's a good question. Let me think for a second.
I want to defend this one, because some people think it sounds like a stalling tactic.
It is a stalling tactic.
It absolutely is, but it's a polite one, and it's used constantly by native speakers, in professional settings, in interviews, in meetings, on stage. It signals that you're taking the question seriously. It reads as respect, not as weakness.
And it gives you a full 3 or 4 seconds of legitimate silence. Silence you asked for is completely different from silence that just happens.
That's beautifully put. And there's a version of this that works when the question is about facts instead of opinions, which people ask for constantly at work. Let me get back to you on that.
That one is enormously useful, and it's not stalling at all. It's a complete, professional answer that means, I'm not going to guess.
And it's the honest thing to say when you genuinely don't have the number in front of you. In your first language, you'd say that without hesitating. In English, people feel obligated to invent something.
Say that one with us too. Let me get back to you on that.
Let me get back to you on that. Now back to the main one. Say it out loud with us. That's a good question. Let me think for a second. That's a good question. Let me think for a second.
One more time, slower.
That's a good question. Let me think for a second. Let's pause here for a moment. Think of a meeting, a class, or a dinner where somebody turned to you and asked what you thought. Say one of these 2 phrases out loud, right now, as if it were happening again.
Third phrase for moment 2. When you genuinely need more than a second, give me 1 second. I want to say this right.
Oh, this is my favorite of the 9.
Why?
Because it's honest. It doesn't pretend. You're telling the person what I'm about to say matters to me, and I want to get it right. Nobody hears that as a weakness. Everybody hears it as care.
And I've used this one in a real interview. In English, under pressure, with 3 people looking at me. I said exactly that, took my 4 seconds, and gave a much better answer than the one I would have rushed out.
Did anyone comment on it?
Nobody noticed. That's the whole point. It sounds completely normal.
One more time, everybody. Give me 1 second. I want to say this right. Give me 1 second. I want to say this right.
And a softer version of the same idea. Let me put that a better way.
Let me put that a better way. That one is a repair tool. You use it after you started, when you feel a sentence going somewhere you didn't intend. Instead of stopping and translating, you restart in English.
And repairing out loud is completely normal, by the way. Native speakers abandon sentences constantly. Listen to any unscripted conversation, and you'll hear people start over 3 or 4 times a minute.
They just don't experience it as failure, so you never notice it. It reads as thinking, not as struggling.
Whereas when you do it in your second language, you experience it as proof that you're not good enough.
Same behavior, completely different feeling attached to it. And the feeling is what makes you stop talking, so the feeling is the thing worth changing, more than the English.
Restarting a sentence is not a mistake. It's how speech works.
Let's demonstrate these 3 the same way we did with small talk. Ethan, put me on the spot. Ask me something I'm not ready for.
All right. Claire, do you think people should learn grammar at all?
That's a good question. Let me think for a second. I'd say yes, but later than most people think. Grammar explains what you're already doing. It's a terrible place to start and a very useful place to arrive.
And what about someone who's been studying for 10 years and still can't speak?
Honestly, I've never really thought about it in terms of years, but I'd guess the problem isn't the 10 years. It's that all 10 of them happened on paper.
Would you tell them to start over?
Give me 1 second. I want to say this right. No. I'd tell them they already have the language. What they don't have is a delivery system, and that's a much smaller problem than starting over.
Now listen to what just happened there. Claire answered 3 difficult questions, and every single answer started with a phrase that cost her nothing. She never once went silent.
And I want to be honest with all of you about something. I did need those seconds. That wasn't acting. The phrases aren't decoration. They're doing real work, even for us.
Now pause again. Think of a question that caught you off guard recently. At work, with friends, anywhere. Answer it out loud, starting with one of these 3 phrases.
Perfect. You just bought yourself time in English instead of losing time translating. That's the whole trick of moment 2. Moment number 3, and this is a big one, explaining something more complex. Your job, how something works, directions to a place. This is where mental translation hurts the most.
Why the most?
Because you're not translating one phrase anymore. You're translating the entire structure of the sentence. And the natural word order in your language and the natural word order in English usually aren't the same. So you have to rebuild the whole thing mid-sentence, out loud, in front of somebody.
I have a story for this one. I once tried to explain my job to someone at a conference. I built the sentence in my head first, in English, and then reorganized it while I was speaking. And it came out in such a strange order that the person just nodded politely and changed the subject. It was rough.
We've all been there. And the fix is not think faster. Nobody has ever gotten fluent by thinking faster.
So what is it?
You break the idea into small pieces, and you use fixed English openers that organize the thought for you. In English word order, automatically. The opener does the structural work so your brain doesn't have to. First one, basically what I do is...
And then one simple action, not your whole job description, one clear piece.
Give me an example.
Basically what I do is help small companies fix their websites. Done. 8 words after the opener. If they want more, they'll ask. And now you have a second sentence to give them, instead of trying to say everything at once.
And notice how much pressure that removes. You're not delivering a summary of your career. You're giving one piece.
Repeat with us. Basically, what I do is...
Basically, what I do is... And the version for someone else's job, or a team, basically what they do is... Basically what they do is...
Second, the way it works is... Perfect for explaining a process, one small step after another.
This one is doing something clever. It announces that a process is coming, so the listener settles in and stops expecting a one-line answer. You've bought yourself permission to take 4 sentences.
Real situation. Somebody asks how your company handles returns.
The way it works is, you send us a photo first, and then we send you a label.
2 steps, 2 small clauses, no translation. Say it out loud with us. The way it works is...
The way it works is... And the past version, for a story instead of a process. The way it happened was... The way it happened was...
Let's stay on this one a little longer, because explaining a process is where I see people struggle the most, and there's a technique inside it that nobody teaches.
Which is?
Stop trying to say the whole process in one sentence. Say each step as its own tiny sentence, and connect them with, and then.
That sounds almost too simple.
It sounds too simple. And it's the single biggest upgrade most people can make. Because, and then, costs you nothing. It's 2 words, there's no grammar decision in it, and it lets you deliver a 5-step process as 5 easy pieces instead of one impossible sentence.
Let's hear it. Explain how to get to a coffee shop from here.
The way it works is, you go straight for 2 blocks, and then you turn left at the pharmacy, and then it's on your right, next to the bank.
3 steps, 3 small sentences, and every one of them is well within what you can already say.
And compare that to what most people attempt, which is to build one long sentence with all 3 steps inside it, holding the whole structure in their head while they speak. That's when the word order collapses.
Because you're not just producing language at that point, you're managing a structure, and managing a structure in a second language in real time is genuinely hard.
So don't break it, and then...
Let's practice that connector on its own, because it's doing more work than it looks like it is. Say it with us. And then. And then. It feels almost silly to practice 2 words, but the point isn't the words, it's the permission to stop the sentence and start a new one.
That permission is the technique. The words are just how you use it. And third, when something got complicated and you can feel yourself losing the thread, to put it simply,
this phrase does something the other 2 don't. It gives you permission to stop trying to say everything perfectly, and just say the short version.
And that permission is the real gift, honestly. Half of mental translation is perfectionism wearing a costume. You're not translating because you have to. You're translating because you want the sentence to be impressive.
Say that again, because I think that's the most important sentence in this episode.
Half of mental translation is perfectionism wearing a costume.
Right. And, to put it simply, is the exit door. One more time, everyone. To put it simply. To put it simply.
And its close relative, which does the same job, the short version is...
The short version is, I want to push on the perfectionism thing a little more, because I don't think we can just say it and move on.
Push.
When you're building that perfect sentence in your head, what are you actually protecting? Be honest with yourself for a second, because it's usually not communication. The other person would have understood the simple version completely.
You're protecting how you'll be seen.
You're protecting an image. You want to sound as intelligent in English as you know you are in your own language. And that's not vanity. That's a completely reasonable thing to want. It's painful to feel like a simpler version of yourself.
That's the real wound in all of this, honestly, not the grammar. The feeling that people are meeting a smaller you.
And here's the cruel part. The perfect sentence never arrives. So what people actually meet is silence. The image you were protecting costs you the conversation that would have shown them who you are.
Whereas the simple sentence, delivered immediately, sounds confident. And confident is much closer to how you want to be seen than perfect ever was.
Nobody has ever walked away from a conversation thinking, that person used short sentences. They walk away thinking, that was easy to talk to.
So let it be easy to talk to. That's the goal, not impressive.
Easy to talk to. If you remember one phrase from this whole section, make it that one. And it isn't even English, it's just permission. Let's put all three together one last time, in a real exchange. Ethan, ask me what I do.
So Claire, what do you actually do for work?
Basically, what I do is help people speak a language they already understand.
Okay, that's interesting. How does that work in practice?
The way it works is, we find the exact moment where somebody freezes, and then we replace that moment with a phrase. One moment, one phrase, and then the next one.
And does that actually fix the underlying problem?
To put it simply, the freezing was the problem. There isn't a deeper one underneath it.
4 sentences, complete explanation of an entire profession, delivered under pressure.
And notice the shape of it. Each opener handed me the beginning of the sentence, so the only thing I had to produce was the ending. That's half the work removed, every single time.
And that's the part I want you to take with you. You're not learning 9 phrases to sound more advanced. You're learning 9 phrases so that half of every sentence is already finished before you start. Pause one more time. Think about something you had to explain recently. Your job, a recipe, directions somewhere. Say the first sentence out loud right now, starting with one of these 3 openers.
And notice, you didn't need the perfect sentence in your head first. You needed the right opener, and the rest followed in English, naturally.
Okay, let's bring it all together. 3 moments, 9 phrases, 1 skill. We're gonna go through every single one, and you're saying them with us.
Small talk. I can't complain. I can't complain.
It's been a long day.
It's been a long day. Same old, same old. Same old, same old.
Being put on the spot. Honestly, I've never really thought about it, but...
Honestly, I've never really thought about it, but... That's a good question. Let me think for a second. That's a good question. Let me think for a second.
Give me 1 second, I want to say this right.
Give me 1 second, I want to say this right. Explaining something complex. Basically, what I do is...
The way it works is...
And to put it simply...
9 phrases, 0 translation.
Now let's do something harder, and I promise it's the most useful 2 minutes of the episode. We're going to use them instead of just repeating them.
Because repeating a phrase proves you can say it. Using it proves you can reach it.
I'm going to give you a situation. You say the full sentence out loud, using the phrase, before we do. Ready?
Situation 1. A coworker you barely know asks how your week has been.
I can't complain. Busy, but good.
Situation 2. Someone asks your opinion on something you have never once considered.
Honestly, I've never really thought about it, but I'd probably say yes.
Situation 3. A stranger asks what you do for a living.
Basically, what I do is manage schedules for a small team.
Situation 4. Someone asks you to explain how something at your job works.
The way it works is, we get the request by email, and then we assign it to whoever has time that week.
And notice she used, and then. That's the connector doing its job in a real answer.
Last one. Somebody asks a question and you need a moment to get the answer right.
Give me 1 second, I want to say this right.
If you spoke out loud on all 5 of those, you just did the actual exercise. Everything before that was preparation.
And if you didn't, go back 30 seconds and do it. Nobody can hear you. That's the whole advantage of practicing with a podcast.
Let's do the last 3 one more time, faster, because those are the ones people forget first. Ready? Basically what I do is... The way it works is... To put it simply...
Good, and here's what we want you to do with all 9. Don't try to use them all tomorrow. Pick one. Use that one until it comes out of your mouth with no effort at all, and then add the next.
1 phrase, 1 week. In 2 months, you'd have all 9, permanently, and you'd never have to think about any of them again.
That's how a chunk becomes yours. Repetition, not understanding. You already understand them. You understood every one of them the first time we said it. Understanding was never the missing piece.
And if you only remember one thing from these 35 minutes, make it this. The goal was never to translate faster. The goal is to have somewhere else to go. If you made it all the way here, I want you to know something. The fact that you translate first doesn't mean you're bad at English. It means you learned it the hard way, through rules, instead of through use. And that is completely fixable.
You should be proud of yourself for showing up today and actually practicing out loud, instead of just listening. That's the part almost nobody does. Your English is a little better than it was 35 minutes ago, and tomorrow it'll be better still. And I want to say something to the people who have been at this for a long time. The ones who have been studying for 8, 10, 15 years, and who quietly believe at this point that it's never going to happen for them.
Say it.
You are not stuck because you lack something. You're stuck because the thing you've been practicing and the thing you need are two different activities. You've been practicing accuracy. What you need is retrieval, and you've never once been taught retrieval, so of course you don't have it.
And retrieval is trainable. That's the good news in this. It doesn't require talent, and it doesn't require moving to another country. It requires saying the same small things out loud until they stop needing thought.
Which is exactly what you did today, 9 times.
The plateau isn't a wall. It's the point where the old method stops paying you back. Everything that got you to B2, the rules, the exercises, the corrections, worked. It genuinely worked. It just doesn't take you any further.
And that's why the plateau feels so unfair. You're not doing anything wrong. You're doing the right thing for a stage you already finished.
So here's our question for you today, and we really do want to know. Write it in the comments. Which of these 9 phrases are you going to use first, and in what real situation this week? And be specific when you write it, not, I'll use them all. 1 phrase, 1 situation, 1 day this week. The specific version is the one that actually happens.
We read those, and we build future episodes out of them. The situations you name are where this channel goes next. We'll be reading. This is the Fluency Plateau.
Your daily step past the plateau. See you in the next one.